Face
the
mask.
100 million was delivered at 2 pesos 35 centavos.
So, lugi kayo. 13.50 nyo kayo nag-bid, fair and square. Negotiated bid. Tapos, bigla na lang kayo, napilitan na, sige, sinulatan kayo. Bibili kayo kami sa inyo. Para bang panakibutas lang kayo, kunyari, para lang masabi, nakabili sila ng mababa. Pero tinira kayo ng 2 pesos and 35 centavos per price. Tama ba yung conclusion ko? Nakamali ba ako doon na napilitan kayo magbaba ng 2 pesos and 35 centavos? Nilinggis kayo ng sawa, so to speak. I know of any analogy. Nilinggis kayo na pumayag kayo na 2 pesos and 35 ang i-deliver nyo. May katwiran po ba ako doon o wala?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We delivered 74 million out of the 100 million at 2.35, 2 pesos and 35 centavos. And I want to always fulfill my contract. In the past 17 years that we are in business in electronics and semiconductor services, we always fulfill our contract. And this time is no exception that we will fulfill our contract. The 100 million units we delivered, it wasn't the original contract, but we completed our contract.
Mr. Chairman, just quickly, very quickly, nalugi ba sila o hindi?
Yes, Senator, good morning. Senator, yes, nalugi kami.
So, nalugi yung Filipino Corporation na nakipagsapalaran.
Habang tiba-tiba.
Tiba-tiba, kaya nga. Ano? Matira ang masiba. Kaya nga. Hindi matibay. Matira ang masiba. I have to make that comment because nakakasuklam ang ginagawa nito mga taong ito. Lumalabas, hinikayat kayo at ibang korporasyon, pagkatapos bandang huli, tinira kayo, yung 13.50 nyo naging 2.35, talagang nalugi kayo. Pero yung kabila, ngayon nahihirapan pa tayong kunin kung paano nila in-import o kung paano nila nilabas ulit yung pera. Now, kayo, nung nag-deliver kayo, alam niyo ba kung umabot yung dineliver nyo sa probinsya o sa mga kailangan natin? Sapagkat hanggang ngayon may nagsasabi sa akin, hanggang Cotabato, meron mga ospital, hindi pa sila nakakatanggap ang face mask o PPE.
Your Honor,
yan ang susunod na gusto ko matalakay ng Blue Ribbon kung umabot yan.
Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, when we deliver, there is always a source inspection. When we deliver to PSDBM in Paco, I call it the Paco area.
The bodega nila nasa Paco.
Yeah, the inspectors, our goods are inspected at the DBM site.
Yes.
Yes. Now, when we also deliver direct to the Department of Health, DOH in Marikina, in Taguig, those deliveries are inspected in our factory in Binyan, Laguna prior to delivery at the DOH. And when we deliver to Camp Aguinaldo and Pampanga, those deliveries before they leave our factory are inspected by DBMPS at our factory. So there are two modes of inspections and clearances at the PSDBM at Paco, or if it is delivered to DOH and Camp Aguinaldo, they are inspected and cleared for shipment in our factory.
So dinadala nyo sa DOH, bahala na si Batman sa DOH, bahala na yung Camp Aguinaldo. Ang nasa Camp Aguinaldo, ang pagkaalam ko, ay yung tinatawag nating disaster, yung civil defense at saka national disaster risk reduction. Di ba? Andun yun?
I am not quite sure. We only had one delivery. We only had one delivery in Camp Aguinaldo, which was August 2020.
Can you tell us kung kanino nyo dineliver doon? I'm sure yung mga tao nyo masasabi ko kanino, sino tumanggap doon.
I do not have that detailed information, but yes, of course, we do have all the documents. That was the receiving documents of in Camp Aguinaldo. Yes,
So masasabi niyo later on, siguro in about tatawagan niyo yung kumpanya niyo, pwede niyo sabihin na saan niyo dineliver sa Camp Aguinaldo.
that's correct. Yes, we can get that information.
You have staff there, you have a conference there from your company. Pwede man pakiusapan na natin sila Mr. Lisano ba yun?
Yes, Mr. Lizano will get that information. Yes.
Yes, I would appreciate it very much, Mr. Lisano, if you can call your company now and find out kung saan nyo dineliver doon. Kung alam mo ngayon, sabihin mo na.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. The delivery
morning.
in Camp Aguinaldo is in OCD, Office of the Civil Defense.
So tama ako, Office of Civil Defense. Tama po ba yan?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Now,
Question, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman,
yes,
Yes.
let me just say, na dineliver nyo doon, hindi na natin alam kung pinadala pa nila sa probinsya yan, no? At katulad nga ng sinabi ko, hindi natin alam dahil sabi nyo, limpak-limpak yung mga bodega, puno na. I would like, therefore, to subpoena the records, and I think I've already ordered that. Director General Director General Rudy Kimbo,
Yes, Your Honor.
nasubpoena na ba natin yung delivery records?
Yes, Your Honor. Yung DOH, yes, Your Honor. Yesterday.
What about Aguinaldo?
Inventory, receipts, tsaka delivery. Yes, Your Honor.
Related to that, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Related to that, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
Of the 42 billion the transfer to the PSDBM, have they submitted to your committee the breakdown?
The breakdown of the PSDBM?
42 billion.
Yes.
They have submitted the breakdown.
Director General Kimbo?
Yes, they have, Your Honor.
All right.
We will supply the Senate President with the
Pero we can present
information,
that.
Your Honor.
Then the next question then is, nasaan yung inventory? Nasaan na ngayon yung lahat ng nabili nila sa 42 billion?
Tama po yung tatanong nyo. At yung doon tayo patungo eh.
Ayun, kaya nga, anyway.
Natin patungo kung saan ang punti, kung deliver, kalahati lang ang delivery. Notorious tayo dyan. May short deliveries, hindi po ba?
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it was related to your point. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And that's a very good point you
Information,
made.
Mr.
And you've helped me a lot because kakailangan. Yes, go ahead, Senator Ontiveros.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the chairman's question, I have a copy here of the contract or purchase order to Farmally Pharmaceutical Corporation
Yes, ma'am.
dated May 8, 2020 for the 2 million units of PPEs worth 3.8 billion pesos.
What was the
Written
910, di po
typed
ba?
here on as place of delivery is the AFP Logcom warehouse, Camp Aguinaldo, Quezon City. So I'm sure
Yes.
we can also fully answer the chairman's questions about the inventory at the AFP Logcom warehouse. So this contract or purchase order, Mr. Chairman, was authorized by then USEC Lao. So for the record, Mr. Chairman.
Authorized by Undersecretary Lau.
That's right, Mr. Chairman.
Na, alam nyo, para akong nahihirapan talaga na magtanong dito dahil alam ko na kung ba't saan ang patutuwa. Hindi ako natutuwa para sa mga nanonood. Hindi ako natutuwa na nangyayari sa ating bansa ito dahil alas namimilipit ako sa hirap dito na nakikita ko na parang talagang plunder ito halos eh. Just for the benefit of the Senate, I think it can be a public notice, judicial notice na kasama dyan sa tinatawag natin sa Camp Aguinaldo, dyan nalipat si Captain Faeldon na nilagay dati sa customs. Nung inimbestiga namin yan, may litrato pa siya doon sa nag-smuggling ng drugs. Nilipat ng ating Pangulo sa Muntinlupa. Nagkaroon naman ng GCTA, yung mga binababaan ang mga sentensya. Nilipat uli siya, nawala siya sandali at nag-surface siya sa Camp Aguinaldo sa Office of Civil Defense. I want to know if the Senate is aware of that. Are you aware of that, Senator Ontiveros? Just, I know that I'm not the only one who knows that.
Thank you for reminding us, Mr. Chairman. Although I'm also keeping an open mind that I don't know, Mr. Chairman, maybe because Secretary Galvez is the chair of the IATF, that
Yes,
there
can
were
I?
certain designated delivery
I don't think that
places
has got to
in
do with
Campo Ginaldo.
Secretary Galvez.
So
I'm
you
just
can answer the question of the
following
chair.
the trail. I'm just following the trail. And
Sir,
Thank you,
can I
Mr.
comment
Chairman.
on the
wala pang IATF dito. Ang hinahanap ko, hindi IATF. Ang hinahanap ko, yung nag-order, i-deliver nila yan sa probinsya. At kung hindi mabibigyan yung mga PPEs, we're putting our healthcare workers in harm's way. Unless Secretary Galvez says kayo ang nag-order niyan at kayo nagpadala doon.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, I think we have to put context on the designation of LOGCOM, AP LOGCOM as our warehouse. During the time of the pandemic, Mr. Chairman, we don't have any warehouse at all.
I'm aware of that, sir.
We know LOGCOM. We have a lot of sitting warehouse there. So we have 2 warehouses there. So it was converted to DOH warehouse. So there is no sinister spot to to relocate those PPEs, because there are instances that the PPEs it cannot the PPEs cannot be accommodated to different logistics cells. So the AP LOGCOM, considering that this is an NDRMC, it is a pandemic, it is just only inherent that the LOGCOM can be a designated warehouse for DOH. So it was converted, the 2 warehouse there was converted to DOH warehouse.
To be fair to this representation, Secretary Galvez, and you know I'm a fair man, I did not say the AFP was involved. The Logcom warehouse was used, and you heard Mr. Lizano say it was delivered to civil defense. I don't think civil defense is under the armed forces of the Philippines. Nakikigamit lang sila ng warehouse ng military. Would that be correct, sir?
Actually, sir, the NTF chairman is the Secretary of National Defense, and OCD is under National Secretary of Defense. And considering that we wanted to mobilize our warehouses there, it is very incumbent that the NDRMC have that warehouse control. So considering that the AFP is also under the NDRMC, so we collocate the warehouse of the DOH warehouse to the AP LOGCOM, because that's the only available logistic warehouse that we have, because the
accept that,
PPEs
sir.
are very bulky.
I accept that, sir. I accept the explanation. Pero hindi ko sinasabi na AFP or the Secretary of Defense. Ang sinasabi ko lang, sinabi civil defense. Ang may warehouse ang AFP. Pinapahiram sa DOH, maaaring pinapahiram sa civil defense. Pero ang hinahabol po natin, we're just following where all itong lahat ng limpak-limpak na in-order na ito, saan napunta. And that's why we would have to subpoena all these records and find out all the way, and we have already done that, sir. And please pardon me if you think I'm making any accusations upon anybody. I'm just saying, nagtataka lang ako, circumstantial connectivity ang pinag-uusapan natin sa civil defense na andun si Captain Faildon. And may I show a picture right now? You show the picture please, agad. I will get to you, General Galvez. I will get to you, sir.
Yes.
David? I'm really stretching myself, and believe me, I'm not happy that this is the case. I'm talking about Michael Yang attended the baptism of Nicanor Faeldon's son. And we have a picture here. Pakilakihan lang yung picture. Pakita nyo na dito sa TV. Ayan po.
Thank you very much.
Wala po ako sinasabi dito na kasama lahat ng mga tao dyan. Ho. Nasabat lang si Michael Yang na hindi nagpapakita, nandiyan sa litrato at binyag ng ating kaibigan, si Captain Nicanor Faeldon, kaibigan ng Blue Ribbon. At dahil naimbestiga yung customs ng araw, nalipat siya sa Muntinlupa, naimbestiga rin ng Blue Ribbon yon. At nilipat siya at diyan siya napunta sa Civil Defense. At andyan si Yusek Halad, ng head ng Civil Defense, kung di ako nagkakamali. Andyan sila lahat, andyan na lahat. Ayoko na magsalita because a picture speaks for itself. Yan lang ang gusto ko sabihin dahil sa paghahanap po natin, naghuhukay po tayo, hinuhukay po natin kung ano ang mga koneksyon dahil dikit-dikit eh. Sa umpisa pa lang, andyan na si Michael Yang. Hanggang sa bandang huli, huwag naman po magagalit ang sino man, hinahanap lang po natin ang katotohanan dito kung bakit nawalan ng pag-asa ang mga kababayan natin na yung mga binabayad natin na taxes ay dapat umabot doon sa tinatawag natin mga kababayan natin na nangangailangan ng mga gamit na yan. Kulang ang bakuna dahil sabi wala raw tayong pera pero alam ko ginagawa ng IATF yan. I have no problem with IATF about that. Alam ko nagpapakasakit silang lahat pero ang nakakasakit lang dito pag umorder tayo may mga nakapasok ata na tinawag na ng isang reporter natin dito na Batikan ng Business Week na si Tony I forget his name right now. Kilala siya. Na sinabi niya na may Davao Mafia. Kaya hindi po ako ang tumawag diyan. At lumalabas nga hindi lang si Antonio Montalban ang sinasabi. Meron siyang article dito sa isang kung ano sinasabi kung saan malalapit yan, papasok ko yan sa committee. Pero si Tony ng Business Week, Antonio Lopez, sinasabi nga, pakita mo nga yung article. Ano naman ho kung nilalabas dito na wala akong hinahabol na dokumento eh. Ayan o, hindi po ako nagsabi dyan. Duterte's Davao Mafia, the fiesta can only go on for so long. Sana tumigil na. Ang nasasagasaan dito ay yung mga Pilipino katulad ni Ferdinand Ferrer na matagal lang nagsiservisyo sa kanilang kumpanya paying their taxes religiously. Pero nangyayari, nakipag-bidding, nagpakitang tao lang ata ito, lumalabas sa akin, pero talagang walang intensyon na bayaran yung 1350, ibinaba pa, pero informally, bayad totally. Tinatanong kanina ni Senate President, saan napunta yung 8.7 billion? Hindi ko sinasabi dyan napunta yan, pero ang nagsasabi niyan ay yung mga paper trail. Okay po? Nabalikan po natin si Ferdinand Ferrer.
Sir, can I still comment?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, Secretary Galvez. Go ahead.
Sir, I think it is the public should know that the organization of the National Task Force is the chairman is the Secretary of National Defense as the head of the NDRIMC. The NDRIMC is an interagency, and during the organization of the NTF, as myself as chief implementer, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, can you speak a little louder, sir? I cannot hear you, halos.
I'm also in charge of the procurement, wherein we organize the TG resource management and logistics, wherein the procurement has been given to OCD and also to PSDBM, and also the OCD will be the distributor, meaning it will distribute all the PPEs to 699 hospitals nationwide, and we accounted all the PPEs that have been released in the AEP GHQ Logistics Center. So the in charge of that is Director Rapi Alejandro. Alejandro is the one in charge of the distribution, and all the distribution has been accounted for because initially the PPE is being carried by the C-130, 43 sorties to China, to the different areas in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And our major logistic hub is in AEP Logistics Center. So I believe the connections of certain personality here in GHQ is, I believe, Mr. Chairman, we have to correct it because our primary purpose then is to save lives. There are 17 doctors that that have been dead during those times, and we wanted to make an immediate deployment of the PPE. We don't have any intention to plunder, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Let me just state for the record, sinusundan ko lang ang paper trail. And I have not included IATF. I have not even Secretary Juan Duque, I'm giving him maatras ako. Pero pinafollow ko lang yung kung anong lumalabas sa mga dokumento. I have the highest respect for Secretary Lorenzana, for you, for Vince Dizon. Alam ko, nakikita naman natin, magkakasama tayo, nagpapagod araw-gabi. Pero gusto lang natin malaman kung paano. Ang hinahabol natin ngayon kung na-deliver. Now, sino yung pangalan na Secretary Galvez na sinabi niyo? Rafi who?
Sir, the organization of the TG Resource Management it is composed of DOH, the PSDBM, the OCD, and the DTI-PITC. The procurement of the large-scale PPEs is being undertaken by PSDBM. And the local production
Sorry, sir. Ano yung PSDBM?
PSDBM under USECLAV. USECLAV is under me, and also Director Alejandro being the chief implementer.
Director Alejandro is the implementer?
No, and as chief implementer, Director Alejandro from OCD is under me because he's the one briefing us every day on the status.
Defense ano po?
Opo, he is from the OCD under USEC Halad, and USEC Halad is also knowledgeable of that.
Opo. Tatawagin po natin sila para mapaliwanagan dahil hindi naman tayo nag-aakusa dito na wala pa naman ako sinasabi. Sinasabi ko lang, natapat lang na lumalabas nga na gano'n na pag sinundan mo yung papel, eto na nga at lumalabas na mukhang napagbibigyan yung ilan doon sa bidding at ang laki ng paghahawak nitong si Yusek Lau. Pagkatapos yung mga Filipino company like Ferdinand Ferrer na matagal nang negosyo ang EMS. Yes, Senator Lacson, go ahead.
Yes, very quickly, since I thought I heard Secretary Galvez mention C-130 flights, and I'd like to find out if the C-130 flights that he mentioned, ito yung merong goodwill flight through Xiamen Airways to deliver the second batch of the items procured from China. Nagamit po ba rito yung ating C-130?
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, during those times that we have met with the ITF, with the directive of the president that we have to produce all the PPEs. That was at the time of April 2, and the first sortie that we had is April 6 with 12,000 because one C-130 is 12,000 PPE, and then
our own C-130. This is the Philippine Air Force C-130.
We have three flights of C-130, 6 flights of PAL, and 12 flights of Cebu Pacific, with a total of 288,000 PPE. And it was delivered to the different. I have the record, Your Honor. I can submit it.
Yes. So from China, lumipad yung C-130 ng Philippine Air Force to ferry ito mga PPEs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We have 3 destinations in Xiamen and Changsha. I'll get the other one, sir. We have
question.
Yes, sir.
Question. Was the Philippine Air Force compensated? Kasi this is part of logistics ito eh.
Malinaw ba?
This
Malinaw?
is the part of the responsibility of the supplier, di ba?
Sir, no, sir. Actually, sir, during the first contract, I believe the arrangement is not CIF, meaning CIF meaning the turnover of the supply will be at the different ports of the Philippines. The arrangement then is considering that we have a lockdown then, sir. They don't have any flights because the different ports of the Philippines had been shut down because we have a total lockdown then. So
now, I'd like to shift to Mr. Ferrer. Were you given the same accommodation by the Philippine Air Force to transport yung mga raw materials nyo para sa mga PPEs? Mr. Ferrer?
Good morning, Senator. We imported our raw materials ourselves and cleared it through the BOC. And we also deliver our finished product ourselves to the designated delivery points given to us.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's exactly my point. Bakit ang accommodation sa foreign firm, parang higit pa kaysa sa accommodation sa sarili nating kababayan, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. President, can I interject? Mr. Senator, Sir, Your Honor, during those times, we don't have supply. Even the private sectors doesn't have the PPE that time. That was April 4. I think the delivery of MS started on August. We don't have any supply then. We don't have PPEs. We don't have surgical masks. Nothing, sir, nothing. And we need
Mr.
to be.
Ferrer. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Ferrer, di po ba nagsimula kayo mag-ship ng mga raw materials niyo mga April?
Senator, we had inventory. We started to ship June 1st. We had inventory
June
end
1st,
of May. Yes, end of May.
Yeah. Pero may mga dumating dito kasi may mga code, and I'd like Bureau of Customs to confirm this, ano? Kasi tatlo yung pinagbabagsakan eh. Isang MOP, POM, yung isa MICP, yung isa NAIA. Sa NAIA, which is coded PO3, marami pong shipments ito June 3, June 3, June 3, June 3, June 4, and so forth and so on. So, I'm just wondering why we cannot accommodate a Filipino entrepreneur who's willing to help because of the pandemic. Tapos hindi natin nabigyan ng ganong accommodation na binigyan natin sa Parmali. I'm just wondering, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
I principally agree, but let me just say something, Senator Lacson, on behalf of the IATF and our Air Force. Our men in uniform have done a fantastic job, and I've been profuse, including the Coast Guard, profuse in letting you all folks that they help. For example, nung inassign kami ng IATF na mag-test, we had the occasion to, with the help of Secretary Lorenzana, na madala yung mga test kits at saka yung mga equipment by Philippine Air Force. But we also chartered our own flights. We chartered Philippine Airlines, we chartered Cebu Pacific, and mercifully enough, we were able to do so. We got 2 flights, I think, from the Air Force. Nakakalungkot nga yung isang C-130 bumaksak doon sa Sulu. And that's why talagang nakakaraing dahil mga men and women of the armed forces and men and women in the government, karamihan, katulad nga nung DTI, pinipilit ng mga kababayan natin mag-produce. Pero pagdating na sa implementation, wala talagang suporta. Sinubo nila yung mga katulad ng EMS na mag-supply tapos hindi nabayaran ng husto yung dapat bayaran. Nakakalungkot lang po. Yes,
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, hindi ko po nilalagay sa spot ang ating armed forces. Ang tinatanong ko lang, bakit iba yung accommodation sa Parmali compared to sa ating kababayan? Hindi ko po sinisisi yung armed forces because once they are instructed, yeah, I acknowledge the heroism of our armed forces personnel. There's no doubt about it. Ang tinatanong ko lang, yung bakit iba yung treatment sa Parmali kaysa doon sa kababayan natin? Hindi po kasabang
you say, Senator Lacson, you have information that Parmali used the C-130?
I think they don't think so. Hindi po nila ginamit po ng ang C-130.
Can you let Senator Lacson answer, because Senator Lacson usually has very good sources. Senator Lacson?
Yeah, we have that information. Now that Secretary Galvez is denying it, then so be it, Mr. Chairman. But we have our own sources.
Yes. Sir, can I answer? The initial,
Secretary Galvez, I will recognize you right away. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Secretary Galvez.
Sir, I would like to put a proper context on the deliveries of the PPEs. First, the initial delivery of the PPEs. I don't know if I'm not aware who is contracting, because that's the DBM. My mission is to produce the PPE and deliver it to all the hospitals. During the time that the president gave the order on April 2, we immediately get the available PPE in China, and those PPE I believe is different procurement, not Parmali. But when Parmali get the contract, all the PPEs had been delivered CIF, meaning CIF, to the shores of the Philippines, in the Philippine port in NAIA and also in the Pier 13 in the Manila port, meron din sa Cagayan de Oro, meron din po sa Cebu port at meron po din po sa Davao port. And I believe ang ginamit lang po natin sa C-130 is kailangan po natin ng PPE. So yung mga tinatawag natin na mga extra na available na nahandun sa China, kinukuha po natin po yun para at least magamit po natin kaagad. Because there is an urgency for that. But we never intend to provide any contractor the special special treatment. Ang ano po ng intention po namin is to get all the available supplies and get it immediately here and distribute it immediately. That's the context po namin, Mr. Chairman.
I can attest to that the IATF has done a good job. And you're not under the carpet here, Secretary Galvez. We're just following kung na-deliver lahat yung ng formally, yung sinasabi nila at nadala ba yan sa mga probinsya. And you said about how many hospitals, sir? 671 ba? 571 hospitals? Sir? Secretary Galvez?
Sir, the total of the hospitals that we have is 669.
Yes, sir. Kayo nag-deliver po? Kayo, dineliver nyo doon sa kung saan yung mga hospital?
Yes, actually, sir, as of May 13, we have delivered 603,500 to different 699 hospitals, including the different regions for Luzon. We have 389 hospitals.
Yeah.
For Visayas, we have 85 hospitals, and then for Mindanao, we have 225 hospitals. And on May 31, we delivered 779,100. And on July 20, the PPE that we have delivered to the different hospitals is now 22,201,530. And then on August 25, we were able to deliver 3,829,962 PPEs to the different 699 hospitals nationwide. It includes national offices, regional offices, also to LGUs, and government hospitals, and also private hospitals.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Secretary, Senator Marcos.
Yes, following up on Senator Lacson's interpellation as well as the responses of Secretary Galvez, may I know if in addition to the flights basically commandeering the C-130s of our armed forces, were there also Navy ships utilized to your knowledge?
Yes, madam. We utilize Navy because the C-130 only carries 12,000. Napakahirap po 'yun at kailangan po namin yung ano po. So nung May 1, we dispatched our BRP Bacolod or yung LS 550 to China.
Yes, I understand it left on the 21st of April under Commander Rogelio B. La Chica. One of our lead logistic supports vessels in the Philippine Navy was also used to pick up from Xiamen and deliver to Sasa Port. Is that correct? On May 8th?
The date is May 1, madam, to make it
May 1
correct.
was the delivery or the departure for Xiamen?
Departure for Xiamen because it's 9 days. The delivery arrived at May 9, madam.
I understand that there were several of these voyages in April and in May. If our chairman will allow, perhaps we can derive the sale plans of all these vessels, their manifests, their radio logs, so that we're in complete awareness of actually what went on. Marami po bang mga lakbayang mga yan? Ilan ba ang ginamit maliban sa BRP Bacolod?
Ilan po BRP Bacolod, madam? We use C-130 43 sorties po, madam. We can give the details po, and including.
BRP Bacolod went to Xiamen how many times? And was it always to Sasa Port in Davao?
Only one time po, madam, because we need the deliveries in Mindanao that time. So we delivered 200,000 PPEs through BRP Bacolod, LS 550, madam.
Thank you very much. If we could have some detailed information so that we can put all the deliveries together. Thank you, po.
Mr. Chair, very quickly, with the permission of the chair, to Secretary Galvez. Earlier, you mentioned that
Yeah.
you were not familiar with the nature of the first
Text me.
items that were picked up because that was DBMPS. Is that right? If you're not aware now, can you find out as chief implementer? But first, can you answer that question? You said the PPEs that were delivered or were picked up by the C-130s was not the formally, but you're not aware of what it was. Is that right?
I think it is a different contractor. I think this is Chansen. Isang company po dito na po na ano po. I believe
Yes. So in other words, it's not formally, but it's another company using the C-130 of the armed forces.
Yes, actually sir, ganun po sir ang ginagawa po sir natin na ganun din po ang ginagawa natin sa vaccine na we are using
Tanong, kung ibang kumpanya yon, ang tanong kanina ni Senator Lacson, binayaran ba yon ng Chancel?
That's in our expense considering the contract is not CIF. Meaning if you say CIF, it will be delivered to the Philippines.
So who entered into that contract?
PSDBM sir.
So in other words, PSDBM entered into this contract with Chansen and agreed that we will use government C-130 planes as we pay you. Parang gano'n na lumalabas, di ba? Sige, bibili kami sa inyo, pero isasama na namin yung C-130 para kami na ang pipick up.
Sir, the situation then is we don't have some sort of logistics means for the company to deliver it to here in the Philippines.
Well, whatever the reason is, the point is DBMPS entered into a contract with a private company and agreed that that private company can use AFP, Philippine, di ba? Armed Forces airplanes, air cargo, and it's to our expense.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, just one administrative matter. In the previous hearing, we asked for materials, reports on the quality inspection because earlier Mr. Ferrer was saying DBMPS went to their entity to their offices, their warehouses, and conducted the inspections. We requested for these inspection reports because we had reports, and I think one of the colleagues of Mr. Ferrer, Mr. Carillo or Ms. Carillo, said publicly in a public statement that they receive information of Chinese-made PPEs that were of poor quality. So we'd like to know, are those poor quality Chinese-made equipment the poor quality, the PPEs that were purchased or not? We don't know. And that's why we want the specifications or the technical reports on the quality. Have they been submitted by the DBMPS? Because we'd like to go through that, Mr. Chair, because we want to make sure that the products that are being distributed by IATF are quality standard products and not inferior products that expose our frontliners to even more danger.
Senator Pangilinan, thank you for your point. The quality inspection people are in the hall, are in the loop, no, and right now here, and we may ask them directly. But I'd like to stick to the point muna, and then you can ask all your questions because I just wanted to lay the predicate to prove the point na masyadong paborable sa Parmali. Halos yung local producers na nagpagsapalaran ay hindi na pagbigyan. So I will ask you to direct your questions right away to the inspectors because they're here. In the meantime, let me just finish with Mr. Ferrer, and you can all take a crack at him because yes, go ahead. You're on mute, Brad. You're on mute, Senator Kapangilinan. You're on mute.
We just want to know if the Blue Ribbon Committee received the documents that we requested, at least initially, so that and then we can raise our questions later.
Yes, we did. I just want to be sure about that. Mr. Kimbo, did you send the notice to the inspectors?
We just sent notices for the inspectors to come to the hearing, but we have not sought a report from them yet.
All right, then let the record state and let the orders be given to you to ask them to submit a more a better report on what is happening, and then that report will be the basis for their examination in the next hearing. Would
Yes,
that be
Your
all
Honor.
right with you, Senator Pangilinan, sir?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now, with your permission, I'll finish already. Senator, I'm sorry, Mr. Ferrer, I thank you for coming here today. Papasalamat kami sa inyo dahil nalinawan ng marami na nag-try ang mga local. So marami ho ba kayo nag-try na naggagawa ng produkto na kailangan natin sa pandemic? At hanggang ngayon, gumagawa pa po kayo, hindi po ba?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are a handful of companies locally, local companies that have repurposed. Regarding the face mask, medical grade face mask, in our coalition, there are only two. I'm one, and there's another company. On the PPEs, I believe there are also two that have repurposed, as well as on the raw material. There was, past tense, an Australian company that wanted to produce the filter material, which is the critical part in the face mask here in the Philippines, but I believe it has now been postponed.
So nakikita nyo na kayo, pag sinabi nyo repurpose, kumambyo yung kumpanya, kaya naman pala ng mga Pilipinong gumawa niyan. Pero kahit na kumambyo na kayo, nakapag-supply ba yung mga sinasabi mong kasama ninyo, yung sa coalition ninyo?
I believe they were able to towards the later part of the year. I do not know exactly how much they were able to supply, but I just wanted to also mention, Mr. Chairman, that part of the objective of the Department of Trade and Industry is to be able to create a PPE industry here in the Philippines.
That's correct. I confirm that because I talked with Secretary Lopez, who's a very responsible individual. And we were talking about bilisan na natin. In fact, I asked, ba anong ginagawa ng PITC? Ba't hindi sila may pera sila? Ba't hindi sila mag-encourage na magkaroon tayo ng sources right here in this country? Di ba? Bino mo, gagamitin pa natin ng mga aeroplano, magbabayad tayo sa ibang bansa. Tuloy nagkakaroon ng talagang discrepancies at mga alinlangan. No? Now, how do you feel now?
Mr. Chairman.
May I just finish, please? May I just
Yes,
finish?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I just want to ask Mr. Ferrer, as a businessman, and you are with the Chamber of Commerce, I spoke in your organization the other day, and di ba sabi natin doon, kailangan may predictability ang gobyerno? Para pag sinabing ganun, bibili tayo, ito ang patakaran, di ba dapat consistent yung rules na yan susundin? At hindi ba dapat, hindi babaguhin yung batas o yung rules in the middle of the game? Nababaguhin nila. Katulad sa inyo, binago yung order, binaba nila yung presyo. Tama po ba yan?
That's correct.
Hindi na kayo tinangkilik at binaba pa yung presyo.
Yes. How do I feel now? I always look at the positive side of things. I feel for our employees, the one who worked last year, the one who, despite the lockdowns in the quarantine, slept in our factory to be able to produce the medical grade face mask. We have over 300 that slept in our factory to produce it.
Well, my point is simply, nilako ko yung subik ng araw nung pumutok ang pinatubo, umalis ang Amerikano. Nilako ko sa buong mundo yan. Ang sinasabi ko, there is a sincerely changed country na we are predictable. Pag sinabi namin itong patakaran, susundin namin. Hindi kayo magdududa. You remember, I was saying, nakafocus tayo, mabilis tayo, madali tayo maintindihan ng mga imbitahin natin, at talagang flexible at saka forward-looking. Ang sinasabi ko lang po dito, sa experience natin, ang masasabi ko lang, ako na ang magsasabi, para hindi kayo, alam ko na alanganin kayo, and I admire you for coming out and stepping on the plate. Humarap kayo, pwede kayong harasin ngayon, pwede kayong pahirapan, pero matapang kayo, and I salute you. And certainly, I'm sure the whole Senate will do its best to make sure that we encourage people like you. But ang sinasabi ko lang, para tayong uh, parang inonse kayo na naggawa nga kayo, na pampagubag loob, nanalo kayo, at tignan nyo yung, pakita nyo nga uli yung chart na yun. In the short space of 1 week, 2 weeks, pare-pareho. Palay ang order sa Farmally, panay order ng iba-iba. Nanalo kayo, pero makikita nyo dyan na linggo-linggo nagpapalit. Pero hindi pa rin sinunod kayo nung manalo na kayo, napilitan kayo ibaksak yung presyo nyo. Sinabi nila, kailangan babaan nyo yung presyo nyo. At sabi nyo nga kay Senator Pangilinan, nalugi kayo. Ako as a Filipino, naiiyak ako.
May I
You
be?
know, Mr.
Naiiyak
Chairman,
pag ganyan ang patakaran natin, at lalo na pandemya tayo, pagsasamantalahan pa, parang may patay, dinukutan pa. Talagang tinaksilan tayo ng ating ilang mga tao dito, hindi naman lahat, no? Pero pinagtaksilan ng bayan na yung dapat aabot sa tao, hindi mapaabot. Ang laki-laking pera ang tinustos nitong nagpabid dito sa mga paborito, sa mga kaibigan nila, na hindi dapat mangyari. Yun lang ang gusto ko. Tinatamaan na ako eh. Nakikita ko talagang kung ano lang pinagsasabi, pero yan lang gusto ko sabihin. Anyway, Senator Ontiveros.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, Mr. Chair, point of information that as early as September last year, 2020, we found out that the Philippine Board of Investments announced that IATF itself, also through the DTI and DOH, partnered with the Philippine General Hospital and the Confederation of Wearable Exporters of the Philippines, yung CONWEP, to produce 10,000 PPEs per day. So, ni-recognize na po, Mr. Chairman, mismo ng mga government agencies natin in that partnership with IATF itself na kaya ng mga Filipino manufacturers to produce. And it was on the basis of that capacity, tulad ng sinasabi ni na Mr. Ferrer, that they offered proper contracts to government. Kaya sila nagtataka after dumaan sila, sabi nila, at ng CPMP, sa butas ng karayom, all the FDA permits, etc., hindi sila nakitanggap ng mga kontrata. Di tulad ng Farmally na the good chairman will recall in the previous hearing, sinabi na ang Farmally walang permit to import, for example, from FDA, at hindi ito kinontest ni dating Yusek Lau. So just for the record, Mr. Chair, to add to the current discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Senator
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is
Secretary Galvez.
very quick, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, can I?
Would like to join and associate myself to your sentiments, Mr. Chairman, especially with regard to our local manufacturers. Mr. Chairman, as mentioned by Senator Risa, nagkaroon na ng agreement, 10,000 a day. In fact, if I recall it right, the agreement was to produce 300,000 PPEs. I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, if this was delivered, ito ba ay natuloy. But let me point out, I think it's very important to picture, Mr. Chairman, gaano kalaki yung tama nito sa ating labor sector. Ilan yung mga trabaho dapat na nalikha, nagawa dahil dito kung talagang nagkaroon ng puso ang ating PSDBM at ang ating pamahalaan na tulungan ang ating mga local manufacturer. Because CONWEP, for instance, Mr. Chairman, already stated that they retrenched 25,400 workers from June to December of 2020. I don't know about CPMP, which EMS is also a member. Yung CPMP, I remember they were saying they are targeting an additional 7,500 employees, pero in total, but they were only got about 3,500 because of again, local demand for their product. So again, Mr. Chairman, parang klaro dito na ang kontrabida sa mga manggagawang Pilipino at para makagawa at makalikha tayo ng trabaho, mismo yung PSDBM. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, can I correct the
Senator
context?
Galvez, Secretary Galvez, nagiging senador ka na.
Sir, can I correct the context? Because our demand is the 9 set PPE. Our demand is 9 set PPE, meaning from head to foot. EMS is only developing the face mask.
That's correct.
Our need then is the PPE, the full set. And we directed the TPS-DBM to produce immediately because that's the need. So we would like to correct the context that we never pay board or never pay board anybody, but we asked whose company can produce that 9 set immediately.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I allow to
I
speak?
think the point has been made.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Secretary Villanueva, did you want to follow up? Or
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Ferrer of EMS about the effects nitong nangyari sa kanila doon po sa retrench ng ilang ating mga manggagawa at yung mga opportunity losses na nangyari only because hindi nga sila nabigyan ng pagkakataon na makapag-supply nitong mga alam na natin lahat na kaya nilang i-supply.
were you directing that question to anybody?
Sir, I
morning,
believe
To Mr. Ferrer,
Villanueva.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Yes, to EMS, Mr. Chairman, please, if we can ask Mr. Ferrer about that.
Yes, good morning, Senator Villanueva. Thank you for your question. And I also wanted to confirm from Secretary Galvez, yes, we only make face masks, medical grade face masks, not the complete PPEs. And you're correct, definitely. To Senator Villanueva, the employee headcount for producing the face mask was around 350. We were not able to execute our second shift because of some push outs in our delivery, which would have added another 200. But I believe on your talk, on your statements earlier, it's better that if you speak to CPMP, when it comes to labor, they had a bigger impact when it comes to headcount or job preservation or employment generation, the CPMP group. Thank you.
Ibig sabihin
I'll get to you,
hindi
Senator
nakatulong ang
Pangilinan. Just,
pamahalaan para makakreate tayong trabaho.
Mr. Lau wants to retort. Go ahead, Mr. Lau.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, lang po, for point of clarification, the succeeding procurements by PMS, PSDBM on April 6, April 14, April 16, and April 20 totaled at around 12 million. So yung binili natin early on April, naghahabol tayo nun. With the average consumption of face masks at around 5 to 10 million per month, we had an agreement or contract with EMS. The arrangement is, the question to him was, how fast can you assemble your factory with all the licenses and deliver? The commitment was by EMS was they can prepare on June. So when we had a contract with EMS already, we stopped procuring from any entity already except from EMS. So nag-antay kami sa kanila. June 1, nag-deliver sila ng 1 million. Ang problema, kulang yon. So kung kulang siya, nag-order kami ulit. Ang available stock was kay Health Wellness at 600,000. Kasi lahat ng ino-order namin, on-hand stock yan. Yung April 6, April 14, April 16, April 20, and April 27. Those were all consumed during the months of April and May. So nung papunta na tayo ng June, nagkakaroon na tayo ng shortage. So that's when EMS actually came into play when they started delivering. So these are the schedules of delivery by EMS. Actually, EMS was a big help. They started delivering on first delivery nila, June 1, 1 million, June 28, 8.5 million, July, 8.5 million, August, 8.5 million, September 8.5 million. Si EMS lang po ang nagde-deliver ng local ng only surgical medical grade surgical face mask sa PSDBM starting when we had a contract with them. We had a problem when it started on October kasi biglang nagpalabas si DOH ng price freeze at 9 pesos. Nung nag-price freeze si DOH ng 9 pesos, doon kami nagka-problema because we have to ask them, can we still deliver? Baka hindi kasi bayaran ng DOH. So we had communication. Ang problem doon is mababa na kasi ang price during that time, mataas ang contract namin. Pero we had a clause with EMS already when we started because I can recall the discussion with them during that time. I was also one of the people who assisted Peripheral and EMS together with DOI. We organized these groups of people para maintindihan nila ang bidding process and procurement process of the government and the licensing requirements. So during the time, when we entered the contract, nilagay namin for safety purposes for both sides, baka biglang tumaas ang presyo, meron tayong safety measure. Pag biglang bumaba ang presyo, meron din tayong safety measure. So ang sabi namin, if you are willing, pag biglang bumagsak yan, dapat pwede tayo mag-drop para hindi tayo ma-accuse. Pumayag naman ang EMS. So that's when umabot ng December, nag-drop na talaga siya kasi on December, we were able to procure at least 200 million pieces, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 200 million pieces of medical grade surgical face mask. Pero, iba-iba to, si Hafid and Erasmus, UDC, WC, Medtex, joint venture, mga local din to sila. But si EMS kasi, we had a long-range contract with him. So to protect him, we asked him, just accept the right to offer match. So mga nanalo para ma-continue siya mag-supply. Kasi pag pinilit namin at 1350, lagpas na kami sa price ceiling. But to set the context straight, when we had an arranged contract already with EMS, we already have the local supplier. We stopped procuring surgical face masks from other companies. In fact, the only reason we had to give EMS leeway of 3 months to really set up, kaya meron kaming stockpile to make sure that we will give him the chance. Kasi pag hindi siya nakadeliver on the time, mabablacklist siya. So that's the logic behind PSDBM. In fact, we were helping him. Day-to-day, monthly, nag-uusap-usap kami with DOH, how delivery. Ang problema talaga din namin doon, pumapasok ang PPE sets, pumapapasok ang ano tawag doon, surgical face mask, mga N95, wala talagang maglagyan. That's our biggest problem. You can look at our office, hindi naman ganoon kalaki. And in fairness, inspection team namin, alam ni ng EMS yan, they count it by millions. And we have only at least 20 inspectors. But we do our job. Ano lang kasi yung timeline, we need to deliver. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate the time.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. The fact remains that you bought face mask at 27 pesos and you allowed EMS to buy at 13.50, and the fact is clearly shown that EMS was not able to deliver everything, but Family at 27 pesos was able to deliver everything along with other things. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
There's a question for the Senator Pangilinan.
Yes, just not a question, just a manifestation, Mr. President. We're talking here of context. And it's interesting that we're focusing on the context of the first 3 months when the pandemic has been around for over a year and almost 2 years. And truth to tell, Mr. Chairman, meron pang 2.3 billion na babayaran pa sa Family for 2021. So wag natin nililihis naman yung usapin. Context is kung umpisa 2-3 buwan, yung unang 3-4 na buwan, siguro maintindihan ko pa. Pero meron pang gastos ng 2.3 billion for 2021. The second point, Mr. Chair, and a quick manifestation, is that, DTI, we spoke to DTI. they were saying that DOH and DBMPS was not responding for several months to the issue of PPEs. Parang merong nagdi-dribble ng bola. The same story for the testing kits, Mr. Chairman. Yung testing kits, merong Filipino testing kit na dinidribble na halos mas mura. Tapos ang dahilan, DOH na naman, tsaka DBMPS. Ay, parang ang lumalabas dito, dinidribble yung lokal kasi nga merong favored na supplier. Tsaka yung 2 to 3 days na delivery, Mr. Chairman, and my last point, you know, sa mga bidding na pabilisan, ika nga, ang tawag ko doon ay lutong Macau. Mabilis dahil alam na nung favored supplier ano yung specs. Nauna na eh. Tinimbre na sa kanila ito ang hahanapin eh. Kaya mabilisan. Yun ang tawag sa, sabi nga, siste sa mga government procurement. Dati na. Pag sinabing lutong Macau, yung mabilisan, meron ng favored supplier, may advance notice na kung ano yung bibilin para makapaghanda sila. Para sila lang ang merong kapasidad. I mean, I'm not saying this is what happened here because we're trying to establish it, but we know that this practice has been done in the past.
Thank you.
Mr.
Senator Revilla?
Very short, very short.
Yes,
Senator Revilla?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yes, with due respect, just a short intervention. May we hear from COA their findings? They heard the explanation of Yusek Lau from DBMS, from IATF, from contractors like EMS. Can we hear kung ano po ang findings ng COA on this procurement?
With the indulgence of my distinguished colleague, Mr. Chairman, this is regarding the statements made by former USEC Lau, Mr. Chairman. Just very, very quick. 15 seconds, Mr. Chairman, dear colleague, Senator.
You've already question 15 seconds explaining yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, while there are so many statements being made by PSDBM, it cannot be denied, Mr. Chairman, that the PSA, and numbers don't lie, PSA noted an increase in total amount value for PPEs and medical supplies of $71.96 billion, $1 million, Mr. Chairman. That's equivalent to 3.5 billion pesos as of June 2021. So, Mr. Chairman, it is clear, regardless context, Mr. Chairman, whether onset of the pandemic or at present, there is a bigger dependence or dare I say preference for importers. Nandun ho yung numero. Kaya ang mga local manufacturers natin hindi talaga natutulungan. Let me just place that on record. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, may we hear from COA, please?
May we hear from COA very fast. I know that you have already submitted the report, but just a reaction on what has been transpiring here. COA? Who from
Yes,
COA
Mr.
is
Chair. Good afternoon po.
Yes, Mr. Chairman Aguinaldo.
Chairman Aguinaldo, please go ahead.
Tayong findings regarding this, overpricing, or para po doon, can we hear from you?
Chairman
Yeah,
Aguinaldo?
yes, Mr. Chair. The findings of the audit team that handles PSDBM really pertained more to inventory management and not the overpricing. Kasi ang nangyari po, I think you were flashing the figures earlier. You had purchases of, for example, yung face masks, anywhere from 13 pesos to 27 pesos. And they procured quite a bit, and I think someone mentioned earlier na yung hindi nga natuloy yung ibang deliveries because of inventory and warehousing space, no?
That's correct.
The problem was hindi po na-dispose kasi a lot of this equipment right away, so that nung dumating po yung September and the prices went down, yung mga regional offices and hospitals ng DOH ayaw nang bumili or kumuha from PSDBM kasi mahal. Kasi for example, yung face mask, anywhere from 13 to 27 pesos, pwede mo nang mabili ng 5 piso or even maybe 10 pesos. You just walk across the street doon sa hospital, makakabili sila ng ganun. So ayaw na nila kumuha, and well, you can't blame them kasi they also want to manage the funds that they have in their possession. And why pay 27 pesos for something worth 5? At the same time, yung recommendations naman had to do with marketing strategies doon sa inventory management. Ways of pushing it further kasi nga yung stock nga nung doon kaya lang hindi na gumagalaw, and now they're faced with the problem with a lot of stock that no one wants to get because it's expensive, and so mapipilitan ang PSDBM to dispose of them at a discount. Yun po yung main observation doon, that there was a problem with inventory management.
So you're saying, Chairman Aguinaldo, sobra ang bili nila. In this particular case, Farmally and others, no, Farmally had the big bulk. You agree?
Yeah, medyo malaki, although yung
Malaki talaga.
contract nung EMS was also quite
Yeah,
huge, I think.
hefty. Pero nabili na nila yan. Pero parang,
Apa.
nung nabili na yung Farmally, puno na yung inventory kung talagang tutusin, kung dumating yon. Kaya nga gusto ko malaman kung dumating o hindi, o dapat-deliver. Kaya nung pumasok yung Pilipino na kumpanya, sinani na sila, hindi na sila makabenta hanggang pumayag na sila na ibaba yung presyo nila ng 2 pesos and 35 centavos. Masakit yun, ha? Because pinapasok sila at 13, kahit natignan mo yung comparative rate, sila ang pinakamababa, which should be the case. Pero sa dami ng kinuha nila, at tandaan natin, nilipat yung pera ng DOH, yung 42 billion sa DBM. Don't you think that was really extravagant na bibigay mo yung 42 billion tapos ipapamahagi mo yung pera sa isang tao na hindi natin kilala, bigla na lang lumabas yung pangalan niya, si Yusek Lau, bili kaliwat kanan, tapos ngayon mafa-fine yung mga Filipino companies at pati yung mga Pilipino na dapat sinasabi ni Senator Villanueva, mga laborers na tamaan pa, talagang tinamaan dyan na kung yung perang yan ay hindi tinapong kaagad sa DBM, makikita natin na perhaps na manage yung inventory at unti-unti bumibili tayo sapagkat marami na kaagad kakaripas ng takbo dyan na namimili sila. Ang ginawa nila, pinaboran yung isang korporasyon o ilang mga korporasyon, to be fair, nangyari, bumaha ng produkto, kaya nalugi na yung mga tao sa pera na dapat umabot sa kanila na hindi umabot. Wala pa yung pera ng mga pinag-usapan natin ng isang araw na hindi mabayaran yung mga SRA, kinakapos tayo doon sa tinatawag nating babayaran para sa mga ayuda at pati na yung sa mga bata hindi makakuha ng module. Lahat yan, susun na yan di ba? So, talagang mali ang prioritization ng gobyerno. Yan lang sinasabi ko. So, ngayon, itong Filipino company, ini-encourage natin magawa, tapos ngayon sila pa ang nakatiwangwang. Lugi sila. Narinig natin, lugi. Kawawa naman, di ba? So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
Chairman.
Senator Revilla, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman Aguinaldo, as to the price of the supplies, yung face mask, face shields, PPEs, ano po ang findings within the price range po ba ito considering the circumstances at that time? Yung panahon na yon talagang kailangan talaga nating mag-purchase. Kung malibawa, for example, wala po ako kinakampihan dito, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Halimbawa, at that time, kung halimbawa bigla maubos yung PPEs, siguro panic mode ang ating gobyerno. Sa atin lang, yung patas lang na investigasyon. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Patas ang investigasyon natin, ang pinapaliwanag natin ng gobyerno. Yan ang patakaran. Nakakita ang COA ng mga discrepancies, sinundan ng Senado bilang tungkulin ng Senado, magpaliwanag sila. Ang problema, hindi maipaliwanag na maayos. Okay, patas yan.
Yes.
Hindi ako sumasali kay kanina.
Yes, alam ko po.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the record to the points made earlier by former Yusek Lau, I'm sure kaya ni Mr. Ferrer depensahan ng EMS. Dun sa listahan ng mga nabigyang kontrata na sinabi ni dating Yusek Lau, yung Hafid Erasmus lang, iisa lang ay Pilipinong kumpanya. And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, for the record, let's talk about capacity of Filipino companies. September last year din, nalaman natin na as early as February 6, binalita na yung Bataan-based firm Filipino firm called Medtex ay kayang gumawa ng 2 million face masks monthly. Kasi since December, nababalitaan na natin yung namumuong pandemic. So a month before nag-lockdown tayo dahil sa pandemic, napag-alaman publicly, kaya ng isang Pinoy na kumpanyang Medtex based sa Bataan mag-produce ng 2 million face masks monthly. At meron din silang sister company under the Medtech group of companies na nagpo-produce ng PPE. So ibig sabihin, may capacity, Mr. Chairman, nung nanawagan ng gobyerno, nag-step up itong mga Pilipinong kumpanya, bakit hindi itinuloy-tuloy yon para mas ma-survive natin ng mas maayos yung pandemya? Kasama yung mga Pilipinong kumpanya at lalo na kasama yung mga Pilipinong manggagawa. For the record, salamat Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Drilon.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have been waiting for an opportunity to ask a few questions, and
Unless you raise your hand.
yes, well, I wanted to.
Because of your white mustache.
I'd like to raise a few questions to Mr. Lau, if I may. Yes. Is Mr. Lau still around?
Yes.
Is Mr. Lau still around?
Chairman, I am
Oh,
present.
there you are. Thank you. Mr. Lau, when did you start your career in government?
June 2016, Mr. Chairman. The national
June of
2016.
2016. Weren't you an arbiter for the regional field office of HLURB for Southern Mindanao region?
Yes, I think only for a period of 6 months, Mr. Chairman.
For 6
months.
All right. So your career started in August of 2016 or June of 2016.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Now, you were Undersecretary of the President in the PMS, or Presidential Management Staff, Office of the Special Assistant to the President. Is that correct, sir?
Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Under the Presidential Management Staff, under the umbrella of the Office of the Special Assistant to the President.
And after that, you went to the HLURB.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And how much was your salary as Undersecretary of the Presidential Management Staff?
I think roughly around 70 to 100,000 per month, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry?
I think around 70,000 to 100,000 per month, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, 70,000 to 100,000 per month. And as CEO and Commissioner in the HLURB, you were in salary grade, what, 30? Is that how I recall it?
Most likely, Mr. Chairman. Around.
And how much was your salary then? Just roughly.
Yeah, roughly around mga SG 30, I think, around still the same, around 100,000 and up per month.
100,000. Now, and then you went from there in 2000. You were there in 2000. You were in HLURB in 2017, and you moved as USEC of DBM when?
2019, Mr. Chairman.
2019.
September 2019 yan eh.
August of 2019.
Yes, Mr.
And until when?
Pahingi ako ng bond paper.
Mr. Chairman.
Si June.
Until December 2019. And 2020, I was president.
When?
Tapos pabili na ng merienda.
Excuse me, excuse me, Senator Grande. Sharid Grande, please turn off your microphone. You're from the Department of Health and you're disturbing the proceedings. Kanina pa yan. Saka alisin mo yan, tara sa bida vaccination. Ilagay nyo yung mukha mo dyan.
So,
thank you. Go ahead, Senator Hack, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. And you were there, you were in the USEC for DBM,
Yes.
USEC for DBM and PS starting when? August of 2019.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Until December 30, 2019. On January 2020, I was designated as Executive Director of PSDBM.
And how much was your
I think
compensation?
roughly 100,000 per month.
I'm sorry?
At least roughly around 100,000 per month, Mr. Chair.
About 100,000. No.
75,000 per month.
Okay, 75,000 per month.
175,000 per
How
month.
can How much?
175,000. 175,000
175,000.
basic salary. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Lau, have you, I have with me, I suppose this came from you, your SALN for 2019 and 2020.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Would you please submit to the committee your SALNs from um, uh, since you started with government in terms of being USEC from August of 2016.
Will do, Mr. Chairman.
Can you submit that?
Will do, Mr. Chairman.
Now, I was analyzing your what's available SALN, and we noticed that from your net worth in 2019 was 36 million per record.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chair.
And this rose to about 41 million in 2020.
Yes.
And how do you account for the increase?
I think one of the reasons there was an increase because there was so many deaths on 2020, and I invested, I think 15 years ago, to buy 140 memorial lots, and I sold 40 memorial lots on 2020, Mr. Chairman. I think those are one of the reasons.
You realize cash there. You realize you said you sold.
Yes.
Yes. Now, when you purchased those lots already appeared in your assets as real property.
Actually, I did not purchase it. It was a fee as a lawyer when there was a transaction of my client's property being developed as a memorial park. The fee given to me by my client, I did not accept it as money. I accepted it as memorial lots. So they gave me 140 memorial lots. So it was, I think, in 2009 or 2010, somewhere around that.
So your attorney's fees were in the form of memorial lots.
Somehow, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Now, did you report that as part of your assets?
Yes, in the SALN, Mr. Chair.
In the SALN, what year?
I think since 2016 until 2019 until 2020. I think it's in 2019.
No, I'm just focusing on first from 2019 to 2020. There was an increase in your net worth of
That's 50 lots, 140 lots, 140 memorial lots. In 2019, in 2020, it's already 100 lots only, I think.
And that accounts, according to you, that accounts for the increase of your net worth.
Some of the reason.
And what are the others?
The other reason is this, Mr. Chairman. I sold some properties. One of the properties I sold is that in a golf course residences. The reason I sold it because the golf course was already operational. So when I bought it, I think around 12 years ago, I'm not sure, 12 years ago, but it's more than 8 years, 8 to 12 years ago, the subdivision was still very young. I think last year or 2019, it was the time when South Pacific started opening up that subdivision into a golf course residence. It's a golf course residence, but they already opened it as the golf course was already open. So when it opened up, market shoot up. So the prices increased dramatically high. And I sold it for one reason. I sold it because I was planning to buy the property adjacent to my house in Davao City.
Yes, I have no problems. What I'm just saying is, I'm trying to trace where how your net worth increased, and what you're describing are properties, are just the change in the nature of the property from real estate to cash. But that does not account for the increase in your assets because whether cash or land, those are assets.
Yes, it accounts for the change, Mr. Chairman, because the date of acquisition and the date of sale is significantly different. It was procured, everything that I bought that I sold on last year was at least 10 years old asset. So,
Okay.
like the memorial lots, the value when it was given to me was roughly around 10,000, 20,000. But now the memorial lots now average just around 80,000 to
All right.
100,000. Second, some of the loan that I had, the loan collectibles I had was already collected in 2020. So everything was maturing. 2019, 2020. So I also have a school.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, I'm trying to figure out, as I said, okay, how your assets increased from 2019 to 2020 because I was trying to examine your SALN. It would appear that your your net worth in 2019 was 36 million. It rose to 41 million in 2020. You had about 21.2 million in real properties listed in your 2020 SALN. But before you joined government, your real estate only totaled 900,000.
No. Before I joined the government, I already had those assets, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry?
Assets that I gather are based on my what do you call that?
No.
Based on my practice.
Also, okay.
That you have
Just places of record, and I'll give you an opportunity to answer that when you bring all your SALNs, because right now I don't have copies of your SALN. Now,
we have to make a
you have
clarification.
also cash in your 2019 and 2020. You had cash assets of 15.78 billion pesos and 100,000 138 US dollars for a total of 20 million as of 2020. So can you explain where all this cash came from? What is the source of this?
I already have my dollar account is my account since before I entered the government. My peso account it's being handled by my wife. We have I think we have two businesses and one school.
Mhm.
So that's basically it, Mr. Chairman. And when I entered government, my net worth is already around 30 million pesos, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Undersecretary Lau, it's difficult to ask you questions because I don't have a complete set of your SALN. Can I request Mr. Lau if you can submit to the committee the SALNs that you have since you joined government in 2016 up to the time you left in 2000, is it 2020 or whatever?
Yes, 2021, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, 2021. If you can submit that so that I can ask follow-up questions. So I'll defer my other questions once the Mr. Lau submits this SALN copies. Now, may I know from Mr. Lau if when you are going to the award of the supply of the face mask, etc., did you require formally to submit a tax clearance?
The list of the documents that we ask when we award are the following, Mr. Chairman. I think PSDBM has the documentary requirements. I think they
Yes,
know
that is no. I'm asking a question of fact. Did you require a tax clearance for family, which is one of the requirements?
Yes, if it's one of the requirements, then it is asked, Mr. Chairman.
Or do you? did you ask for it?
The procurement team, Mr. Chairman.
No, you're the head of the procurement team.
But I don't do the procurement
Okay.
right, Mr. Chairman.
All
Because
right. I'll ask later on whether or not because that I don't see that in the file, the tax clearances of Farmally and Sutsu Machinery. I don't.
Sushu Machinery is a foreign company, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Now, did you who in payment of these goods that were that were paid for by PSDBM, did you collect VAT?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. When it's a foreign company, we deduct outright 12% VAT on the basis that we might not be able to, the government of the Philippines may not be able to collect the taxes due to this foreign company. So our arrangement with them, since their standard format in selling is that the items will be sold will be delivered only in the port of China, and that they will not handle taxes in the local in the country of destination. We already deduct it in advance from our payment. When it comes to local company, we use our standard deduction, which is, I think, let me check, Mr. Chairman. I don't have the records with me, but I'll check if what is our standard deduction. The standard deduction we do is we get 1% EWT and 5% FVAT. And we have a retention money of 1% that we return to the supplier after the delivery, a full delivery of the items.
I'm sorry, but I find difficult trying to figure out what you're saying. But just a straight question. In the sale of these medical supplies to the government, was it subjected to an output VAT of 12%? These are Farmally. I'm just talking about Farmally because Farmally is a domestic corporation.
Farmally, we deduct in other local companies. I cannot answer the question, but my answer is this: we deduct 1% EWT. I do not understand EWT, and 5% FVAT because I'm not the one doing this, but our AFG, admin and finance, and our controller. So this is standard format in all the suppliers of PSDBM. So this is deductions.
Go ahead.
So that's it. The three. We deduct 1% EWT, 5% FVAT, and 1% it's not VAT, but it's retention money. And we return this 1% retention money to the supplier upon after full delivery, after 3 months after full delivery, Mr. Chairman.
So you're saying that all the taxes were withheld, the appropriate withholding of taxes were done?
I'm not really very good in the computation of the controller, but my answer is affirmative on the deductions that we standardly deduct. We do deduct it, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
The 5% and the 1%.
Yeah. Anyway, we will be asking for the records in the PS because it should be there. These are matters that are recorded. So I'll request later the committee to subpoena these documents on the tax liabilities of this company. So in the meantime, well, I have questions on Farmally executives, Mr. Chair, not on Mr. Lau. We will just request for the documents from PS DBM pertaining to the issues I just raised, and that's principally on the taxes. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll suspend my interpellation until also Mr. Lau would submit his SALN. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Okay, the chair directs Director Kimbo to make sure that the documents requested by Senator Dillon, as well as the SALN, the various SALNs of Mr. Lau, be sent and be obtained by us. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Senator De La Rosa?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Senator De La Rosa,
Yes.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One lang, housekeeping clarification, Mr. Chairman. Are we still going to follow the priority list of questioning? Dahil kami ni Senator Tolentino dito, alas 8 pa kami, andito na sa building, Mr. Chairman. And Senator Tolentino is listed number 6. I am listed number 7. At kung singit ng singit yung mga listed number 13, 14, 15, hindi aangat yung ating number dito. Wala mangyayari sa priority list natin, Mr. Chairman. Sa akin lang sana, kami rin naman gusto sumingit, magtataas ng kamay, hindi rin ma-recognize dahil ang nauna na-recognize yung virtually present, yung physically present dito, hindi ata nakikita sa screen. Kaya yun lang, clarification lang, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm sorry, I did not see you raise your hands. You know, I always recognize our senators who raise their hands. And I'm sorry, as scintillating as your facade is, I did not see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Would you like to ask questions now?
Hindi ako griping, Mr. Chairman, ha? Kuwan lang ako, nagugutom lang ako dahil mag-alauna na. Pero pinakain naman kami dito ng staff mo dito. Salamat, Mr. Chairman. Hintayin na lang namin yung turn namin. Dito lang kami, ni Senator Tolentino, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
You're recognized now. If you want to ask the questions, you'll wait until you eat. Okay, that's fine. Senator Villar, please, and then Senator Recto. Senator Villar. You need to ask your assistant to unmute, please.
So can you hear me now?
Yes,
No,
loud and
not-
clear. Loud and clear.
Okay. I just want to know if I'm going to be listed, what number will I be? I'm just
You are
curious.
actually number 20. Actually,
20.
the number is really right now is Mr. Soto, Mr. Subiri, Mr. Dillon is finished, Mr. Recto, and should Senator Subiri ask questions, we will call him. If the Senate President wants to call him, of course, they have priority, you know that. And Senator, we recognize his presence earlier. I did not see Senator De La Rosa, and I apologize. Senator Villanueva raised his hand, and I recognize him. Senator Lacson has been recognized. After Senator I called you because you were raising your hand. Medyo marami tayo kasi. So,
Okay, just list me where I should be and then I'll wait. Okay, thank you very much.
thank you. Senator Recto or Senator Subiri? Sorry, Senator Subiri? Okay, when Senator Subiri comes in, Senator Recto, you're recognized.
Mr. President,
Sorry, Senator Subiri, go ahead.
questions are more on the vaccination. I can wait my turn and give my turn to the next speaker. It's all right, Mr. President.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Thank
Thank
you. Senator Recto? Senator Ralph, please go ahead. If Ms. Vilma Santos will allow you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'll try to be brief. Mr. Chairman, I was following the proceedings this morning, and I'd like to center on the role of the private sector. No, we've had deliberations in Bayanihan 1 and Bayanihan 2, and the records will clearly show that we've been talking about producing our own PPEs. No? And it surprises me that there was testimony today that we had a local company or several local companies who could have produced this for us. Remember, in this pandemic, we are saving lives and livelihood, Mr. Chairman. No? So it pains me as well to know that hindi na ibibigay sa mga local suppliers natin, Mr. President. No? So moving forward, how are we coming along as far as producing our local PPEs?
Who are you directing the question to?
Yes, to anyone in the government, Mr. Chairman,
Anybody take?
or maybe from the private sector, the representative from the private sector.
All right.
Let me start with them. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Ferrer is from the private sector. Would you like to
Yes.
answer that? Anybody
Yes,
from
Mr.
the
Ferrer.
private sector, just sound off and we will recognize you to answer the question of Senator Rector. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Senator Recto. When it comes to a PPE industry, there was an established PPE industry that can produce the complete set, except for the gloves, except for the surgical gloves that we almost had one, but has pulled out of investing in the Philippines. But we will have to relook again, Senator Recto, if we can again scale up to the requirements that is needed in the Philippines. But I would strongly recommend if we can put together and have support on local manufacturers. The Filipino companies can produce the required PPE for the Philippines. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Ferrer, isn't it correct that based on last year, no, based on the data that we've seen with COA, mas mura kayo kaysa doon sa mga binili sa Pharmaly? Tama ba yun?
Based on Senator Recto, based on what I heard today, at least for the face mask, we are lower than the prices that I saw in the document I was presented this morning.
Yes, so mas mura kayo, almost half the price.
It seems that way, Senator Recto, yes.
Okay? So, half the price kayo pero hindi pa rin binibigay sa inyo ng gobyerno. Tama ba yun?
We were awarded 100 we were awarded a 100 million piece contract at 1350. And again, I'd like to say that only 25% of that 100 million was shipped at 1350, and the 75% was shipped at 2 pesos and 35 centavos.
Okay. Magkano naman yung sinip ng Pharmaly?
That one, I wouldn't have any information, Senator.
Okay. So question to PSDBM. Is Yusek Lau with us still?
Still present, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So the question is, naka-deliver ang EMS ng 1350. They won the bidding for 100%. Naka-deliver sila ng 250. Magkano yung delivery naman ng Pharmaly? Para maintindihan natin to.
The dates are very crucial, Mr. Chairman, because the deliveries of EMS started on June 1, June 28, July, August, and September, all in 2020. And the last deliveries I think they had was this year, January. However, Pharmaly has delivered 500, 2.4 million, and 10
So let's keep it quickly because marami pa magtatanong eh. So magkano ang delivery ng Pharmaly?
Around 12 million pieces for the month of April and May.
And magkano yon? How much did it cost the government for them to deliver?
It's around 200 to 70, around 280 million pesos.
No, how much per piece?
Per piece at 27 and 22, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So sa local, 13 and 2 pesos. Doon sa imported, 27 and 22. Tama ba yon?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So hamak na mas mura yung local.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay. Pangalawa, let's ask the private sector, why is it that you do not know the prices quoted by Pharmally? Meaning to say, hindi ba dapat transparent yung PSDBM? Nasa website dapat ninyo, nasa portal ninyo, so on and so forth, na ito yung presyo na binibili ninyo. Bakit hindi natin nakikita yon sa PSDBM? Bakit nakatago yung mga presyo? Bakit hindi alam halimbawa ng EMS?
From the from the EMS side, we do not look. We don't have any reason to look for what the prices of other suppliers, simply because we do have a contract to deliver 8.5 billion pieces for 1 year.
Yeah.
So
No, I understand that. All I'm saying is that shouldn't there be full transparency,
Mr. Chairman,
as far as PSDBM is concerned? Yes, please continue. Mr. Clau, yes.
I think EMS already knew about that because that was the basis of the negotiation. For us to give him a bulk purchase, I remember us discussing roughly when he was planning, when he was referred to us by DTI. I gave him the standards, the list of requirements to comply with, endorsements to be.
Yeah, US law, no?
Yes.
There are.
We talked, Mr. Chair, ang sabi ko sa kanya is simple. Ang going rate ngayon is around 27, 22. You have to give us a good price para mag-stabilize ang price, but we will give you the best contract that we can give you para fair. The government will have stable supply.
Yusek Lau, the point that I'm driving at, is transparency. My point is transparency in the website of DBM. In fact, it is listed as a major concern by the COA report.
We understand, Mr. Chairman.
That is the point. No?
Transparency is concerned. Mr. Ferrer was informed on that. That was the basis of the negotiation.
So it's not about Mr. Ferrer. It is about, let's say, my office looking at the PSDBM website. It is how much are we purchasing this? Or when you bid, for example. And the COA report is littered with all these transparency issues. That is the problem. No? Okay. Unlike, for example, if it were purchased by the DOH, clearly that would be in their website. Pero pinasa sa PSDBM eh. That is problem number one. Okay, pangalawa. How much do you charge as fees in the PSDBM?
Usually we charge around 4%, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so 4%. Why should a government agency charge another government agency 4%? Bakit kailangan kumita ang PSDBM ng 4%?
The salaries of the employees of PSDBM, Mr. Chairman.
Isn't it that the salaries of the PSDBM is already in the general fund?
We use revolving fund for our inventories and our salaries, Mr. Chairman.
Ulitin natin. Isn't it correct that the salaries of the PSDBM and everyone in DBM is in the general fund?
I am not as sure of that. I think it's
well, I am sure of it.
DBM would be able to answer that, Mr. Chairman.
I don't think I am sure of it. Your salaries are paid. You are a national government employee. Is that correct?
I am, Mr. Chair, but the PSDBM employees are all contractual under PSDBM.
Iba yung contractual, but nevertheless, that is still in the general fund.
Maybe, Mr. Director, you use budget because
correct. It's the budget. Now, if it were a GOCC, that's another matter altogether. But the question here is accountability. The one really accountable should be the Secretary of DOH. Nandun yung budget sa kanila eh. Ilang taong ko nang sinasabi na mali itong practice na to na may pasabay. Pasabay meaning to say na pinapasa ng iba't ibang department sa PSDBM, sa PITC, paring accountability mawala sa kanila at may pakita sa papel pag budget hearing na ito ay obligated. Na sa katunayan ay hindi. Every year, we take this up in the budget deliberations. And there are accountability issues involved. Di ba? Again, why are we charging government, taxpayers, an additional 4%? Palagay ko may mali dun eh. Ha? Nawala na yung accountability, may commission pa ang PSDBM na 4%. Kung ang DOH ang nag-bid niyan, meron bang 4% silang babayaran?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
May babayaran ng ang DOH na 4% sa
Service-
PSDBM?
Service fee usually, Mr. Chairman.
No, when they use PSDBM, if
Yes.
DOH were to bid it out by themselves, may 4% ba?
I cannot answer that, Mr. Chairman. I think
There is
DOH
none.
agency.
Yes, but you know better. There is none. Right? It is only the PSDBM that charges. Okay? And when you bid out the projects, who signs the notice of award?
It's common supplies, Mr. Chairman. It is the executive director, which is me during that time, Mr. Chairman. If
So
it,
PSDBM ang notice of award.
common supplies po, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, hindi ba dapat pagka let's say DOH yan binigay sa PSDBM, may joint accountability dapat yan? Now you bid it out and it should be the secretary also. Or it should be the secretary of DOH who should sign the notice of award after the PSDBM recommends. Isn't that should be the practice?
If it's not common supplies, Mr. Chairman, it's a non-common supplies, and then usually it will be the what do you call that? The end user who will be signing the notice of award. The PSDBM will issue a recommendation for award.
Correct.
But if
So
it's
in this case,
it's PSDBM po.
So in this case, with regard to what we're talking about, the Secretary of DOH did not sign any notice of award.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So only you signed the notice of award.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And where did you get the specifications for what to buy?
The agency purchase request, which is sent to us by DOH, it details all the standards and specifications of the items that they are ordering from our office.
So what does that mean? The standards and specifications
is set by
alam
the
nila.
department. Yes.
They're aware.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So if they're aware of the standards and specifications, why did they even download those funds to you? Why can't they just bid it out themselves?
I think the answer of DOH last time was that they lacked the personnel and the time during the time. In fact, it was a discussion with the I think IATF and NTF during the time that there was no source and they need to ask PSDBM to handle that particular affairs, Mr. Chairman. So I think that was the reason, Mr. Chairman.
Alin yung nauna naman, yung request nila sa inyo, or yung download of the funds, or when did the government determine na common use supplies ito?
I think the declaration that it was considered as a common supply was made on, I think, in March. I don't know. It was declared as common supplies. I am not sure when it was declared as common supplies, Mr. Chair, but it was when is the specific date. But before the transfer of fund, it was already considered as common supplies, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so nauna yung determination of common use supplies. And who determined that?
It's the GPPB, Mr. Chairman.
So DBM pa rin?
I am not aware of, sure of the nature of the GPPB, Mr. Chairman.
Is it the GPPB under the Department of the Budget and Management?
I think so, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, it is. Okay. So DBM lahat ito. Okay? Okay. Now,
Mr. Chairman.
do you still have any resources with the PSDBM today from different government agencies?
I'm not aware. When the time by the time I left, Mr. Chairman, yes, there were resources still available.
Still.
But I'm not
And,
present.
yes, and which would be covering numerous years, is that correct?
That is accurate, Mr. Chairman.
How long? Maybe 10 years? Meron bang 10-year-old? Wala naman.
We conducted our inventory. I'm not sure if it's up to 10 years, but I am sure at least there are 3 years old or 4 years old.
Okay. So what does that mean? If there were funds lying idle with the PSDBM for 3 years? Hirap din ng DBM magpabid ng mga project. Ganun ba yun? Ng PSDBM?
Usually, Mr. Chairman, the reason for the some accounts there that are left when like me, when I arrived into office on 2020, some of the items or some of the accounts are left there. It was not bidded out because the specifications and the APRs of the agency of the procuring of the end user, which is the agency that transfers the funds to us, was still being crafted, not clarified.
Or incomplete, di ba?
Yes, or incomplete. So
okay,
that's the situation.
So look at this issue now, the accountability side. You're telling us that one of the reasons why hindi mabid out ng PSDBM yung iba is because hindi kompleto yung specification standards na binibigay ng agency sa inyo. Okay?
Yes.
So nagtuturuan kayo in effect, di ba? Dinownload sa inyo and then you can now say, oh, nade-delay yan kasi you're not giving us the specifications eh. Right? So ngayon, nalilito na ngayon din ang Kongreso kung sino ba talaga accountable. Yung PSDBM ba o yung agency? Okay? Today, for this PPEs, we're saying alam ng agency yung standard at yung specs. At sinabi sa inyo, this is the quality we want. This is our standard. This is our spec. Okay? Kung alam pala nila yung anong kailangan nila, di dapat sila na lang ang nag-bid. Bakit pa pinasa sa PSDBM? That is the point.
Precisely,
right?
Mr. Chairman. The reason they passed, that's why we were able to bid it within 1 year and award multiple awards within the year, because DOH was efficient in submitting to us the standards they sent to us.
Yes, that's the point. So if ibig sabihin, alam nila yung kailangan nila. So my point, Mr. Chairman, is they should have bidded it out themselves and not pay PSDBM 4%. Diba?
Mr. Chairman,
Na short change ngayon, ang taxpayer din, doble-doble, nagbabayad na ng sweldo, magbabayad pa ng 4%. Tapos syempre, nagugulat pa yung taxpayer ngayon na doble-doble pa pala yung presyo. Remember, based on our records today, what did we talk about? Ang presyo ng lokal, 13 pesos at 250. Ang presyo ng imported, 27 at, or what was the number? 23 and 28. Thereabouts. Kaya nagtataka yung tao. And I think, let me again manifest, I've been doing this for several years now, questioning always government doing a pasabay. Ang tawag ko pasabay eh. Downloading funds para kunwari obligated to PITC, to PSDBM, at nawawala yung accountability on the bidding, nagbabayad pa ng dagdag commission, so on and so forth. Nalilito ngayon yung budgeting process din because of this practice. That is the point, Mr. President. So we're very much concerned with how this operates.
Excuse me, Senator Recto.
Yes.
Secretary Duque, did you want to
Yes.
react?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I just want to put this thing in context. In the January, February, nung dumating yung COVID-19 sa atin at patuloy na tumaas na noong March, we were all concerned for the protection of our healthcare workers. And the president was very vocal about his concern for the protection of our healthcare workers. Wala tayong makuhang supply. Yan ang talagang malaking problema natin. Walang-wala po tayo. In fact, yung mga natira namin ng mga supplies naubos sa Taal Volcano nang binigay namin ng mga mask. So, talagang wala kaming makuha. And the president was telling us, no, you have to produce all these PPEs, all these life-saving equipment because we need to take care of our healthcare workers. Kung meron pang supply, bakit hindi na lang kami? Kami naman talaga ang gagawa nun dahil alam naman namin lahat ng mga technical specifications. But of course, kami, binigay namin sa PSDBM because kami yung amin procurement absorptive capacity was really very, very poor because unang-una, yung mga panahon na yan, ang dami na isolate, na quarantine na mga DOH employees and officials. No? Number two, yung balik-balik namin sinasabi na talagang walang-wala tayong makuha. Kung meron naman tayong alam na pagkukuhanan katulad nung sa Bataan, wala naman silang volume. Hindi naman sila daw makagawa ng sapat na mga PPEs o yung mga face mask. Nagkaproblema din po sila sa raw materials. Sabay-sabay, yung global supply chain, napaka-acute ng shortage. Kanya talaga kami, minabuti namin, dahil nga sa direktiba ng ating Pangulo, you have to produce. Kanya yun po ang ginawa ng IATF, ng NTF, and we had to download these amounts not in one sitting. We actually downloaded this covering or spanning almost 1 year. And we have the documents to submit to the committee. Ano yung schedule of the agency procurement request that we downloaded to the PSDBM together with the amounts and quantities, the technical specifications, etc. Kompleto po yan. And lahat po may legal basis. So talagang walang-wala po tayo. Kaya talagang we were desperate. That's the word that I'd like to use. We were desperate.
Let me move on. So, if for example, so 1 year, maintindihan ko sa umpisa siguro. No March, April, maybe. O sige, kailangan bigla-bigla. O sige, medyo mataas nga itong una. Pero yung succeeding, mas mura na dapat. No? Pangalawa, palagay ko naman, hindi rocket science to produce these PPEs. Kayang-kaya na natin i-produce yan. If we cannot even produce PPEs, what else can we produce? What else? Dito sa Batangas, nakaka-produce tayo dito ng mga high-quality semiconductors din eh. And we cannot produce PPEs moving forward. Di ba? What is the policy today? Shouldn't we produce some of this locally at least? Shouldn't we have our own stockpiling of this? Many countries do that right now.
Mr. Chairman, let me just give my rejoinder. Yung policy naman po ay ang mga local manufacturing companies, they can. Nobody is stopping them. They're being supported naman and nakapaggawa nga sila. In fact, nakasama nga sila sa suppliers list, no? Is testament to that policy. Na they're all welcome to locally manufacture. And yun naman ang ginawa namin. Nag-meeting kami nila Secretary Mon Lopez ng DTI. Pinag-usapan po namin iyan na bigyan natin ng pag-asa, bigyan naman natin ng oportunidad yung sarili po natin mga manufacturing companies dahil yan po ay nag-employ ng libu-libong mga kababayan natin. So we share with you that sentiment na if there's an opportunity for the private manufacturing companies to supply government I mean, that opportunity has to be maximized. And that's what we did. Yung nga lang, syempre, yung PSDBM, may sarili naman silang proseso na hindi naman po kami kasama doon sa kanilang mga proseso. So I defer to the...
That's my problem, Mr. Chairman. Yung hindi kami kasama sa proseso, again, the accountability issue. Magtuturuan eh. Ang pera galing sa inyo, pero bahala sila. Sila yung nag-bid dyan. Hindi ako nakapirma dyan. Yan ang nangyayari. That is the point I'm driving at. There must be clear accountabilities. Di ba? Okay, yan ang problema. Pag nagpapasabay.
Mr. Chairman, can I just comment very quickly? I just would like to suggest, Mr. Chairman, that perhaps it might be best to consider legislating so that a legislation na hindi na pwede itong ganito para mas malinaw talaga. Kasi ito naman ay ginawa din ng batas.
Okay.
I would, just a humble suggestion, sir. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, and I will propose that in the General Appropriations Act for 2022, we can write special provisions to this effect, limiting the role of PSDBM and PITC. Or even clarify the accountabilities as well. Okay. Now,
Mr. Chairman, we support that 100%.
Okay. So I just wanted to make those manifestations, put that on record, no? And again, like I said, no, the COA report is littered with many transparency issues with regard to PSDBM. Hindi nakalagay doon yung purchases, what has been awarded, so on and so forth. Okay, and I will not take. I know a lot of senators will want to ask questions. Let me wrap up, no. And later on, I may participate again, no. I just wanted to zero in on this. So, hindi rin ho nakakatuwa o nakakabahala nga na malaman natin na yung local supplier natin could supply it for 1350, for 250, and yet binigay yung kontrata sa foreigner, Chinese, I don't know kung Chinese ba o hindi, what company it is, na at those prices, double the prices. Yun ang nakakabahala based on the testimony earlier, no? So I won't take much of the time right now of the committee. I'm sure that many of my colleagues will want to ask questions. If given the opportunity again later, I'd like to talk about another issue. So again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, what is a pleasure, the gentle lady.
Thank you, good Chairman. I'd just like to request, since I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Huang Tzu-Yen will be with us in the next hearing, if the Chairman could allow me to ask him questions in this hour before we go into session, Mr. Chairman, just to begin to ask him quick questions that he can quickly answer for the information of our committee, Mr. Chairman.
We haven't gotten any word whether he's going to be deposed by the embassy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, but he's here now.
Word, I will make sure, but he should be in the next meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Would the Chairman kindly allow me to begin posing him some quick questions just to open up the topic, that the mystery that he can help shed light on for our committee, Mr. Chairman?
Senator Risa, we have a long list and I don't want to be blamed. You know, I've always been liberal with you when you ask and intervene. I will do that anytime you intervene, but Senator Tolentino and then Senator De La Rosa. Senator De La Rosa wants to be able to ask a question. I think by now he should have finished his lunch, but let me ask Senator Tolentino whether he wants to proceed, with your permission, of course.
Then, of course, Mr. Chairman, then at least just for the record, still hoping that the chairman and the good gentleman from Cavite would allow me my request, that I just want to ask Huang Tzu-Yen, Mr. Huang, first questions about the actual business of Pharmally. And second, last but not the least, Mr. Chairman, also some quick, but I think mystery solving questions about their Pharmally's business practices in Taiwan. which they seem, Mr. Chairman, to be doing here too.
Again, my
Thank you,
answer
Mr.
is the
Chairman.
same.
Yes, thank you,
It
Mr.
might be a
Chairman.
futile gesture because he's not under oath, and I'd like him to be under oath before we do anything. I will find out right now as soon as we, unless I'd like to call Senator Tolentino for the moment, please, if you'll allow the chair. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Tolentino, go ahead.
This will be very quick. I promise Senator De La Rosa that he will be able to ask his questions. Bibilisan ko na po, Mr. Chairman. I would want to have Ms. Ruiz of the DBM-GPBB, Yusek Lau, COA Chairman Aguinaldo, and finally Secretary Duque of the Department of Health. Mabilis lang po. Is Ms. Ruiz there of the GPPB?
Mr. Chairman, I'm present.
Yes, Ms. Ruiz, there is apparently, and this was asked by Senator Recto, a definition that should be coming from you, common use supplies and equipment. Kung wala po ito, hindi nakasama siguro yung face mask and face shield. So kailan po na-issue itong memorandum or circular na nakasama yung face mask and face shields?
Mr. Chairman, may I be allowed to respond?
Can you wave so I can direct my proper focus on, there are several faces here. Alin po kayo? Can you wave?
Sorry, sir. Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman, may be
So,
allowed to
Yes, go ahead,
respond?
ma'am. Mamadaliin ko na kayo.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to everybody. If you'd allow me just to clarify, the GPPB po, the Government Procurement Policy Board, is an interagency office. Hindi lamang po siya ang Department of Budget and Management. It is headed by the DBM nonetheless. The GPPB issued po resolution number 03-2020 in March of last year, declaring COVID-19 related items as requested by the Department of Health as common use supplies.